A lot of the times, the first thing I say when I start a Filipino talk for teachers is I'll say, when you guys are thinking about your Filipino students, a lot of these adjectives will come up. You'll say, oh, they're so happy, and they're always smiling, they're really pleasant, really obedient students, very, very ideal for this classroom. And the thing is that a lot of the students are happy, and they are very happy to be in Canada, very happy to be in your classroom, in the school in Toronto, but a lot of them are not. This talk is about that. And that immediately they're looking at me like, wait, what? Filipinos are known for this, right? Even when we're upset, we're still smiling, and it's such a weird thing. And it's nice in a way, but then it's also not nice, because in Canada, like, we have to just express ourselves. And if you keep it in, you always have that happy face on. It's not going to bode well for you, right? You have to let it out. And of course, Filipino students, they're not ones to want to tell, talk to a counselor. They're not ones that are going to go and cry in the guidance office. They're just going to stay with their friends and just be happy, pretend that they're happy all the time. The whole idea of inner debt is something that's so alien to them. And so when you're talking about remittances and the idea that you have to send money back, if you're abroad and you're not sending money back, that would be a disaster for your family. And also, it would be something that they would find shameful, right? And so you don't want to put shame on your family, and you don't want to make them think that you're too good for them, you forgot about them now. The whole culture behind that is really rooted in our family ties. And you're right, like, the Filipino economy would collapse without remittances. And it's such a foreign thing, right, for Canadian people to understand. You know, you say, okay, you're going to make X amount of money, and out of this amount of money, this much is going to be sent to your relatives back home. And they could be people you haven't seen for like 10 years. And even though you're not making a lot of money in Canada, you're always going to find a certain amount to send back home, no matter what. When you're looking at someone who, you know, is used to a certain level of lifestyle, and then they come to Canada and they don't receive remittances anymore because now they're in Canada and they're living in the Canadian economy, right? And the standard of living is really high here, but so is the cost of living. And that's when it really, really hurts students. And so not only are they dealing with education, and they, you know, now they're suddenly in grade 10 again, they had already graduated high school, this is ridiculous. And then they go from being up here, like middle class, to being in a lower class, because now they're in an apartment building and there's nobody around, and their mom has 3 jobs, she's working so hard. They didn't even realize that it was so hard for her to make all that money in the first place. And a lot of students feel guilt about that. A major component of Filipino Talks is, when I talk to the students, is I'll make them all write a letter to their moms. And then they flip the page over and they write a letter back to themselves pretending to be their moms. And so the first letter will say something like, "Dear Mama, I'm so annoyed that you're always nagging me. I wish you didn't bring me to Canada." And then the second letter will say, "Dear Anak, I'm so sorry you feel this way. I'd like to spend more time with you." And that is so powerful. I don't ask the students to share it out loud because of course they don't want to. So I put them in my mailbox, and I bring it home, and I take a line out of each letter and I put it all together into a big video. So that way the students can see it's not just me, right? And that is a really good tool to show to teachers as well, because they're very honest, right? Students are saying things like, "I wish you'd never left me behind for white kids." Oh my gosh, right? And then you see from the mom's perspective, the moms are saying, "I wish you didn't feel that way. I did everything for you." And you know the kids know this, and they know that they know this, but they've never put it out in words before. And putting that together into a movie is super duper powerful. And that's what makes teachers cry, which is great. I love making teachers cry. I think it's important. Filipinos have something called downward mobility. Downward mobility means that the longer that we're in Canada, the more likely we are not to succeed. So we found things like that Filipino parents, they are more likely to have a university education than most other immigrant groups. However, when you look at their children, they're less likely to have a university education. And it's true, university is not for everybody. College is a great option too. But when you're just looking at the attainment of post-secondary education, and why are we not going this way? One of the students, she had written, she wants to be a doctor. And she's about to graduate, and she's grade 12, she got into U of T, and she knew in her heart that she's not 100% sure she wants to be a doctor one day. But her parents really want her to be one. And, it's a situation where, your mom left the Philippines to pay for your education and to make sure that you would come to Canada and continue your studies, get a great job, be a doctor. That was her mom's goal the whole time. So she said, who am I to say no, right? She's done all of this for me. I can't say no to her, right? And she's like, I have the grades. I'm good at science. I might as well just do it. And I thought, why don't you meet a doctor first? And then you can see. And so the doctor is, doing his presentation, and she raises her hand and she says, what happens if my parents are pushing me into being a doctor? I'm not sure I want to be one. And this guy, he's like a Tito type age, right? And he's been in Canada for maybe 20 years now or more. And he looked at her, and all of us were expecting him to say, you should follow your parents. All of us were expecting that. And he said, no. He said, being a doctor is something that you have to be 100% sure about, because those are lives on the line. And being a doctor is something you have to be sure about, because that's years and years of schoolwork. And you have to be sure of it because it's not really just a job. It's more of a lifestyle. It's a vocation. It's something that will take over your life. And if you're not ready for that, if you're not 100% sure about that, then you should explore other options. And your parents should understand if you say, this is not going to make me as happy as something else. And the look on her face was so relieved and then surprised and really just happy someone had said that to her. And he was a doctor, and he was Filipino, and he was like her parents' age. That was a huge moment for her, and everyone could see that, oh, okay, maybe he's not just talking about her, maybe he's also talking about me, right? The whole culture of obligation, right? The whole idea of utang, it does impact the students' aspirations in the future. And just by default, being a Filipino girl in a school, you're going to think, yeah, nursing, that makes sense. You're not even going to question it, right? Because all of them want to be nurses. And the nurses that are taking care of you, and maybe your parents have also been Filipino, so it's not something that you question, right? You think, oh, Filipinos just naturally like nursing, that's fine. And bringing that to the attention of teachers is really exciting, because then they say, oh, I just thought that Filipinos were really gifted at nurturing people, like they're really good at it. And it's not really just that. It's also like our first exported people were nurses, right? The first people that even came to America, and then a lot of them came to Canada, and the first people that came to Canada were nurses. They were women. And if you're looking at the whole idea that the Philippines exports people, that's our top export. And then if you look at the fact that so many of them are nurses, and then you look at your own students and say that's why they want to be nurses. Not because they chose it, because society does it for them.